You just heard what former Deputy National Security Advisor K.T. McFarland had to say about the FBI's investigation of the former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. It was just all moving, how people couldn't realize how that actually happened. We learned that she was also subjected to FBI questioning at the time and echoed Flynn's concerns about the state of the FBI simply being on a fact-finding mission, and that she, too, was told that not having a lawyer present really wasn't that big of a deal. This brings up some serious legal questions and concerns about our civil rights and the FBI's history of abusing its power, particularly when it comes to the lines between criminal allegations and foreign intelligence operation. So how concerned should we all be? And for ensuring that we don't become victims as well.
Yeah, that's right. And to answer that and more, we bring in our next guest, Harvard Law professor, criminal defense attorney, and author of Guilty by Accusation, which you can download free on Kindle. We have Professor Alan Dershowitz.
Hi.
Hey, Professor, how are you? That's a nice treat for the weekend. Now we can go read your book because it's free on Kindle. So let me ask you this. I want the audience to understand a 302 is the investigation that an FBI agents do when they've got a witness. Let me play for you what General Flynn's attorney, Sidney Powell, said about these 302s.
Oh, yeah, by the way, they altered the 302s until McCabe signed off on it, and it said things that he didn't say, and had one sentence that contained a not in the notes, but not in the report. I mean, just dramatic differences, even though Judge Sullivan said it wasn't material. I think most people looking at it would disagree with that conclusion.
Professor, how does that work? He gives an interview with these FBI agents, they make notes to what he says, and then his attorney is saying they altered those 302s. I don't understand how that's possible.
It happens all the time. Let me tell you, the FBI will not allow you to bring a tape recorder into the interview, so you can't prove what it is you said. They won't allow your lawyer to bring in a tape recorder into the interview. Normally, they won't allow your lawyer to be there. Everybody relies on the notes of the FBI agents, and it's notorious that these notes are always, not always, but often self-serving and don't reflect what actually went on during the interview. Look, over a year ago, I wrote a series of articles in which I said that Flynn had not committed any crime. He should never have pleaded guilty, and he should be allowed to withdraw his guilty plea. Because even if he did lie to the FBI, he didn't lie in a material way. He lied about something the FBI knew the truth about. They didn't ask him the question in order to find out information. They asked him the question in order to get him to lie. And there are cases that say a lie to the FBI is not by itself a crime unless it's material. An example, the FBI is doing an investigation of terrorism. And they ask a question, by the way, did you ever have an affair with so-and-so? And the guy or the woman says no in order to protect the spouse. That's a lie, but it's not a material lie because it didn't relate to the investigation. And when the FBI has the answer on tape, they already knew what Flynn had said to the Russian. And they asked him basically what they already knew for one purpose and one purpose only, to get him to lie. It was a perjury trap, and we should not tolerate that by our FBI agents.
So there's two other traps that I think are important to cover. Number one, we played this for K.T. McFarland, but when Comey sends these FBI agents, he says, I didn't tell the White House counsel's office to give him a heads up. I don't know how that's possible. And second, we are now seeing these FBI notes come out that says, what are we doing? Going to get him to lie so that we can get him fired. I can't understand how that's even possible in the world, in the country that we live in.
Well, unfortunately, it is possible. We know that there were agents in the FBI, Strzok and others, who were out to get President Trump, who said they needed an insurance policy, who wrote about how terrible it would be if he were elected. Look, I didn't vote for President Trump. I voted for Hillary Clinton, but I'm a civil libertarian. I don't want to see the law abused against anybody. And the FBI abused its power in this case. And the judge has a responsibility under our system of checks and balances to check the excesses of prosecutorial overzealousness. And the judge should allow Flynn to withdraw his guilty plea. I think if he was allowed to withdraw his guilty plea, there would probably not be a trial. They would probably drop the prosecution. But if there were a trial, this would all come out to the great embarrassment of the FBI. So I think for every reason, Flynn ought to be allowed to withdraw his guilty plea.
Well, let's just say, now that this information is out there, what is next for Flynn? What's the recourse of this?
He has made a motion to withdraw the guilty plea. He should. By the way, these 302 should have been disclosed earlier. It would have informed him before he made the decision to plead guilty. Why do people plead guilty when they're not guilty? For a very simple reason. If you don't plead guilty and you're found guilty, you get 10 times the amount of sentence you would otherwise get. If you would get 1 year for pleading guilty, you get 10 years for pleading not guilty. That's what's called the trial punishment. It's not the punishment for what you did. It's the punishment for you having the arrogance to challenge the system and to assert your innocence. And if you're convicted, you get a multiple, often 10 times, a multiple of what you would have gotten. That's why people like Flynn plead guilty, even if they have grave doubts about whether what they did was actually a crime.
Professor, I cannot thank you enough for how much you have shared with us and our audience today about what really goes down. It is so insightful. Thank you for being here. I want to repeat, Guilty by Accusation. It's on Amazon if you want it in hardcover, and if you want it free, go download it on Kindle this weekend.
Just read it at home. Make sure you don't read it while walking outside. I made it available free to keep you
socially distanced when we read your book. All right, coming up, we're going to ask a senior Trump legal advisor and a retired Department of Defense intelligence operative about the FBI's conduct and its case against Michael Flynn.
And later, we're talking about former Vice President Joe Biden, his denial of Tara Reade's sexual assault allegations. You don't want to miss this.